This is Tecker 911, episode 61, Reinstalling Windows. I'm Plasmeier.
I'm Reed Dame.
And today we're going to talk about reinstalling Windows, and we'll be showing it with reinstalling Windows XP. So let's first start off, why do you want to reinstall Windows XP? Well, or maybe let's start off with what is it. So by reinstalling Windows, you're bringing your computer right back to how it came fresh from the factory. So basically you're doing a factory restore. It's going to wipe all the data that's on your computer off of it, and you're going to start fresh like the day it came out of the factory, more or less. So why would you want to do this? So if your computer contracts a virus, sometimes the only way to truly 100% remove it is to totally wipe your computer, start over. Some people like to do this every year or so, sort of spring cleaning, get their computer running faster. So basically, if it's corrupt or if it's too slow or if it has major problems, sometimes you want to reinstall Windows. Now this usually is an option of last resort because, as we said, it will delete all of the data on your computer, get you back fresh to factory settings, and if you have any important data on there, you're going to want to save or back that up first, right? All right. You can also upgrade your computer from a previous version of Windows. You want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, upgrading imports your data, settings, and programs from a previous version of Windows.
Right, so let's say you had XP on this machine and then you stuck the Vista disk in. You could upgrade this installation of XP to Windows Vista, but this is really a bad idea.
Because it leaves all your registry entries, and if you have a virus, it'll just leave that and you'll still have it. And we really recommend that you not do an upgrade unless you have a ton of files and you don't want to lose them. We really recommend you do a clean install of Windows.
Right, it's always great to start over fresh. It's less problems, and upgrading from XP to Vista is sort of problematic. Early indications show that upgrading from Vista to Windows 7 is probably going to be less problematic than XP to Vista, but in general, we don't recommend upgrading at all. But we're going to show you how to reinstall Windows. So the first thing you might want to do, and this is an optional step, is to remove everything on your computer beforehand. So we've talked about in the past, a long time ago, a program called Dban, or Derek's Boot and Nuke. If you just search Google for DBAN, you'll find the program, and then you can load it onto a floppy drive or a CD, probably a CD nowadays, burn it onto a CD. Then you reboot your computer into it, and it will totally wipe off everything on your hard drive according to Department of Defense specifications. Just to note, this procedure takes a really long time, probably anywhere from a day or two to a few weeks, but it'll totally erase everything on your hard drive so that it's unrecoverable, as we mentioned, to Department of Defense specifications. And this is not just if you're reinstalling Windows and you want a total 100% clean start, but if you're going to be giving away your computer. Actually, that's another reason why you might want to reinstall Windows. If you're giving it away to someone, or if you're repurposing it from your laptop to the kid's laptop, give it a fresh start, and you don't have to worry about any of your data still being there or anything. So Dban's an optional step. Totally wipes out everything 100% on your hard drive. So this laptop has already been debanned. It took about 2 days, and that was the quick erase option, not even the Department of Defense option, which would probably be about 2 weeks maybe. And that's probably overkill. Maybe once or twice is probably all you need.
Personally, I find doing DBAN on your computer before you reinstall Windows to be a waste of time, because you can just reformat it and you won't see any of your previous data, and you save a lot of time, because I really don't have anything that I need to hide to Department of Defense specifications.
Right. So, yeah, as I mentioned, DBAN is an optional step, and we'd only really do it if you're going to, give the laptop away or sell it on eBay. So before you sell it on eBay, you DBAN it, then you reinstall Windows, and then you're able to sell it. But if you're just, repurposing it for your kids or spring cleaning it for yourself, probably overkill to even DBAN it once. All right. So in order to reinstall Windows, you're going to need a copy of Windows. And when you bought your computer, you probably received a Windows recovery CD. It's already in the laptop, so I can't take it out. It might have the name of your manufacturer on it, or it might have the word Windows or something somehow on it.
If you have an Apple Macintosh, there's an option to install Windows on the Apple Macintosh. We're not going to be covering that today, but it's basically the same steps.
Right. And if you didn't receive a CD with your computer with the OS on it, it's probably on some sort of recovery partition. And if you go on your computer manufacturer's website, they'll have instructions on how to access that and how to reinstall Windows from that. It's usually when you turn it on, you push some special hotkey, and then you can access the recovery partition and reinstall Windows from that.
Debanning your entire hard drive will remove the Windows recovery partition that your manufacturer may have put on your computer.
Right. If you deban the entire hard drive, deban will give you the option only to remove certain partitions, and the partition that you'll want to remove is the largest one. You'll probably see several on there that are maybe a gigabyte or thereabouts or less or slightly more, and you don't want to touch that or deban the entire hard drive unless you have a recovery disk.
When you're reinstalling Windows, you're also going to need drivers for your computer. Drivers are little bits of software that help the computer work with the hardware.
Right.
You're going to need drivers for wireless internet, your Wi-Fi card. You might need drivers for your screen resolution to work right, your sound, memory card readers, just any little bits of hardware on your computer you're going to need to download drivers for.
Right. And drivers, you can do that in a number of ways. Often for the devices that come with your computer, your manufacturer will include a disk, or they'll already be on that recovery partition we mentioned. In other cases, the Windows will automatically be able to find the drivers for you. And then if it's software or if it's devices you've added later, such as a wireless card you've plugged into your computer, then you can, if you still have the installation CDs from that. If not, drivers are available online, and you'll probably want to download the ones that you don't have onto a flash drive, or if you have access to another computer, which you can download them from, like a friend's computer, you can then later, if needed, go and find those.
In addition, some manufacturers' store CDs may include drivers. Like I know for our T4220 Fujitsu Lifebooks, they include the drivers for the pen-enabled touchscreen, the Wi-Fi, and all the hardware on the Windows recovery CD. So I don't need to go and download any drivers separately.
Right. So it's kind of, you don't really know ahead of time what drivers you specifically need. With later operating systems, it's really gotten good where if you have the recovery CDs that came with your computer, or the recovery partition, you're probably good. And then you can, as long as the computer is usable enough, you can download it. But reinstalling Windows has always been kind of like a risky thing you can do. All right, so I think we're ready to get started here. We're using the CD method. This is the Dell CD that came with the computer when it was purchased, and we've already inserted it and had it start up. So it's up and running here. So this is Windows XP Professional, and it says welcome to setup. So we're going to push enter to set up Windows now, and then we're going to agree to the user license agreement, and now it'll ask you what partition you want to install on. Because Gdovin had debanned this entire hard drive, it's totally 100% erased, so we just see one partition here that actually says unpartitioned, so we're going to go ahead and install it on that. You'll want to install it on the largest partition space that you have, unless you've installed other operating systems, but we're not going to go into that. So we're going to say format the partition using NTFS, and then we can do quick format because we've debanned it. So it's going to start formatting this partition. Installing Windows does take a long time, and there are a number of steps that you have to do.
So once Windows is finished copying a lot of files, it'll ask you to restart your computer, and then it'll bring you to this wizard when it'll continue installing. The first thing you'll see is regional and language options. You can customize Windows XP for different regions and languages. We're going to be using US English.
Right, we're just going to use the standard, so there's nothing to change here. So we can basically go next. But if you have a foreign language keyboard, here's where you tell them about it.
Personalize your software. This is where you're going to be entering your name and organization.
Right, so this is Michael Gdovin's computer, so we're going to put Mike Gdovin. And organization, we're just going to leave blank, then hit next. Then you enter a computer name. This is the name for the its computer name on the network. I recommend keeping this short. Let's just call this.
This will show up to other people when they're sharing documents with your computer over the wireless network.
Let's just call this Dell 6000 because that's its model number. If you want to set up an administrator password, you do want to set an administrator password. Here's where you type it in. Right, so this is just in case something goes wrong with your computer. So we're just going to put in a really weak password. Actually put in something secure and something you're going to remember. So we're going to type that in twice.
Press enter, and it'll lead us to date and time settings.
Right, so we're going to tell it that we're in Eastern time zone, that we do use daylight savings time, and then we're going to tell it the date and all that good stuff. That's pretty self-explanatory. Alright, so after we're done that settings, it's going to install more items. Alright, so now a few minutes later it asks about networking setups. We're just going to go with typical settings. If it's part of a work group, we talked about work groups in the file and printer sharing episode. If you have one established, you're going to want to give the name of that network in order to properly share stuff. Mine is MS.
Typical work group names are either MS Home or Work Group in Microsoft Windows.
Right, so I'm going to set it as MS Home. So we're finally at the graphical part of the Windows setup after many steps, and now we're going to go next, and it's going to ask if we want to turn on automatic update. We highly recommend just turn on automatic update. So we're going to pick the green shield. Definitely want the automatic update. Alright, now it's going to ask for a username. So the first username I'm just going to set up Mike. So remember that admin username that we set up on the previous step, that's only in case you have problems with the computer. So we're going to have Mike be the only user. If you have other user accounts, you can set that up. Alright, we're ready to finish. Alright, and now saying welcome. So after the welcome screen came up, this Dell computer is now in the steps of installing the drivers, and this is a Dell specific option for this computer. Other manufacturers may vary, and if you have an off-the-shelf copy of XP, it won't do this at all. So it's going to need another 30 minutes to install all of its Dell utilities. So now we're all done. It finally booted into the regular Windows. We've got a fresh factory from the factory Windows XP computer ready to install and do what we want with, totally cleaned off.
I'm Reed Dame.
And I'm Uncle Plasmeier.
Enjoy your factory fresh computer.
To watch this episode again or to watch any of our prior episodes, you can visit our website 911.tecker.net, T-E-C-K-E-R. And on the website we have our prior episodes, as well as you can view them directly on the website, or you can download them in WMV for Windows, iPod or QuickTime format for your iPod, or if you have iTunes installed, an MP3 audio-only version of the show, and a WMV HD version of the show, which you can download via BitTorrent, that looks really, really clear and in pristine HD quality. And instructions for downloading via BitTorrent are also on the site. On the right-hand side, we have more information about us and about each of the members of the show, as well as quick links to all of our prior episodes and links to the RSS feeds for each of the formats that we release the show in, and links to subscribe to the show in iTunes if you have an iPod, an Apple TV, an iPhone, any Apple device. You can click on that link in either video or audio format. You can also in iTunes search for Tecker, T-E-C-K-E-R, in the iTunes store, and then you can find our podcast that you can subscribe to free. Also, if you do not have an iPod, if you have like a generic MP3 player, then you can use you can still listen to our show if on our website you subscribe to this MP3 audio version in a feed catcher, in a podcatcher like Juice. You can search for Juice on Google, download that program, and then it'll load the shows automatically onto your generic MP3 playing device. If you have any questions about the show or about technology, you can send us an email at 911@tecker.net, or you can leave us a voicemail at 610-572-2847. Thank you so much for watching Tecker 911.